All right, I'm here whenever you're ready.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard my guest this week on Better Workdays because this is a special episode called ChatGPT and me talk about the Batman. So please give a warm welcome to my guest, ChatGPT. Say hello to the folks, ChatGPT.
Hey everyone, excited to chat about the Batman with you all.
So let me explain to you, the audience, why we're going to talk about the Batman, how it's going to tie into ChatGPT, and how this can help you out at work, even if you don't necessarily apply this lesson to the Batman as I'm going to do. Now, why the Batman? If this is your first time listening to Better Workdays, then you don't have the context. If you're a regular listener, you probably know by now because I find a way to wedge it into so many areas of my life, and the podcast is no exception. I love the movie The Batman, the 2022 movie written and directed by Matt Reeves, starring the kid from Twilight, as I still think of him, even though he's my age or perhaps a little bit older or not that much younger than me, Robert Pattinson. Tremendous movie. It's a brilliant movie, and it also happens to be the best Batman movie ever made. And I think a big reason it's the best Batman movie ever made is largely because in the Batman, they portray Batman as a full-fledged detective. In much of that movie, he is in detective mode, which is a comic accurate aspect and characteristic of Batman that the other movies have never dove into to the degree that the Batman did. The Batman made the detective role a key part of the character's identity and function in the story, and they made the detective story the narrative structure of the movie. It's not just about Batman being in detective mode. The reason he's in detective mode is because they're telling a detective story in that movie. And that's something I got very curious about. I loosely know that some of the Batman's influences are considered noir, or neo-noir perhaps. And I know that the movie Seven is an influence on it. I know that there's lots of classic detective stories that the Batman was lifting from based on things I've learned about the production and the inspiration behind it. But I recently was thinking, I know that it's considered noir, but if you ask me what noir means, I couldn't really articulate it for you. To me, it means like if you picture the like old-timey detective stories where the detective's like smoking and drinking too much, and a good-looking dame walks in the office and is like, I need you to investigate my husband who's gone missing. And like that's noir, like dark shadows, black and white, people smoking, cool bad guys, a good guy who's also isn't that good of a guy, is kind of a troubled person. But that's, I couldn't give you a formal, articulate definition of what noir means. So I wanted to learn more just about what noir is. And specifically what I wanted to do was learn about what it is and learn about what other movies or books or short stories I could go and read that are considered quintessential examples of the noir genre. So what I do in cases like this is I turn to ChatGPT because I have a lot of issues with ChatGPT, but this is not one of them. This is one of the services, functions that ChatGPT can serve for you that I feel like is a wonderful example of how this tool can be utilized while maintaining authenticity and not using it to be a snake oil salesman, basically. So what I do is I go to ChatGPT, and as you'll see, if you're watching the stream, I've got ChatGPT open on my computer. That's what you're seeing. And I've got it in voice mode. So you're not going to see the text. However, everything that I'm saying right now will be captured in text form at the end of this and available to me. Every response that ChatGPT verbally gives will also be transcribed and captured. So I'm going to have a conversation with ChatGPT, but I know I'm going to have a text document that I can go back to and pull from. So I don't necessarily need to take notes while having this conversation with ChatGPT because ChatGPT is transcribing the entire conversation for me. So anyway, ChatGPT, thank you for waiting so patiently. Now, you heard everything I just said, so let me ask you this. Can you just start by explaining to me, give me a basic definition of noir that anybody could understand, regardless of their literacy or familiarity with the genre. Give me just the layman's term, the definition.
Sure. Noir is a genre known for its dark, moody atmosphere. It often features crime stories, morally complex characters, and a cynical tone. The classic detective in a trench coat, shadows, and urban settings are common. It's more about mood and character than happy endings.
All right, what are some? Well, let's start with the Batman and Seven. Are those examples of noir, and how so, if they are?
Yes, both the Batman and Seven have strong noir influences. Seven is a classic neo-noir with its grim city, a morally ambiguous detective, and a dark, unsettling atmosphere. The Batman also draws from noir, with its shadowy visuals, detective focus, and a brooding, complex protagonist. Both films emphasize mood, mystery, and moral ambiguity, which are hallmarks of noir.
What's some of the give me in your mind, well, not in your mind, but pulling from, let's go pulling from critical analysis of the film The Batman. Why don't you tell me, pulling from that school of thought, some examples of the way that film presents moral ambiguity?
Sure. The Batman showcases moral ambiguity through its characters and themes. Bruce Wayne struggles with his dual identity, questioning his role as a vigilante. The film blurs lines between justice and vengeance, especially with the Riddler, who sees himself as a vigilante too. Characters like Catwoman and even Gotham's police force operate in gray areas, challenging traditional notions of good and evil. This layered approach creates a complex, morally ambiguous world typical of noir.
All right, and explain how is the movie Seven noir?
Seven points to noir with its bleak, rain-soaked cityscape and cynical tone. The detectives, Somerset and Mills, are flawed, world-weary characters, another noir staple. The narrative's focus on a disturbing serial killer and the exploration of moral decay further roots it in the genre. It embraces ambiguity and the dark side of human nature, hallmarks of classic noir.
And I can see parallels between that and the Batman because I think you just referred to moral, maybe you said moral degradation, and that's definitely a theme I noticed in the Batman. Is that movie ends with the new mayor of Gotham City giving an address where she says we have to restore our faith in each other. No, she says restore our faith in our institutions and in each other. So I think the movie very much, I think Batman at the end of that movie sees that he has to play a hopeful role in stopping that moral degradation and kind of getting the city back on its feet from a moral perspective, because I think that's what the Riddler exposed, is that the scary thing about the Riddler was not just that this individual is scary, which he was a serial killer, as an individual, but it's not the Riddler that Batman faces off with in a big climactic one-on-one battle at the end of that movie. He faces off against a small, militia or group, a group of anonymous Gotham citizens who felt the same as the Riddler and were angry and hurt enough to follow the Riddler in trying to inflict pain on the city that they were so mad at, and the people of the city, which in a way I think is far scarier than an individual. It's the influence. I'd be curious what you think of this, ChatGPT. And again, I'm not necessarily what you think, but what critics and academics and the folks out there studying film and the Batman, I want to know what they said about this. But is the Batman largely about influence?
Absolutely. Many critics highlight The Batman as a film deeply focused on influence. The Riddler's ability to inspire others to violence shows how dangerous unchecked influence can be. Bruce Wayne, as Batman, also grapples with his impact on Gotham, realizing that his actions inspire both fear and hope. The film underscores how influence can shape a society, for better or worse, making it a central theme.
All right, now listen, back to educating me on noir. Here's specifically, what is that rattling? Oh, I hope that's not in the podcast, everybody. I apologize if it is. Specifically, what I could use some help with is this. I have an idea for, I would like to try to write a short story, a short piece of fiction, and I would like to follow the same narrative structure as the Batman. So give me in as simple terms as possible, give me the basic structure that the Batman and other similar noir detective type stories follow.
Absolutely. A typical noir detective structure often follows these steps. 1. Introduction. The detective is introduced, usually with a case that sets the tone. 2. Inciting incident. A crime or mystery draws the detective in, often with a femme fatale or a shadowy figure. Investigation. The detective explores clues, meets suspects, and faces obstacles, revealing deeper corruption or conspiracy. 4. Confrontation. The detective confronts the antagonist, often uncovering unexpected truths. 5. Resolution. The case is resolved, but often with a bittersweet or morally complex ending.
Okay, and here's another question I have for you. The detective in the story, can you give me some examples of short stories, short detective stories that follow that structure that would be, good. So good stories for me to read if I kind of want to start absorbing that structure through osmosis. But I also am specifically interested in any stories that fit that criteria, but that also have a reporter character, so an investigative reporter in that detective role. It's not a traditional detective, it's an investigative reporter. Can you suggest anything along those lines? And tell me where to find it.
Several short detective stories feature investigative reporters as protagonists. For instance, The Case of Miss Elliot by Baroness Orczy introduces an armchair detective who assists a young journalist in solving a mystery. Additionally, The Dancing Detective by Cornell Woolrich presents a story where a dancer helps investigators track down a serial killer. These tales showcase the role of journalists in crime fiction, highlighting their investigative skills and unique perspectives.
Okay, now forget the reporter part. Just give me some short stories that anyone interested in the noir style should read.
If you're interested in classic noir short stories, consider The House in Turk Street by Dashiell Hammett. This tale features the Continental Op, a hard-boiled detective, and is known for its intense action and dark themes. Another notable story is The Lady in the Lake, also by Hammett, which showcases his signature style and complex characters. These stories are available in various anthologies and collections.
All right, last night I talked to you about this stuff last night too to kind of test this out a bit. Last night you recommended a story called The Paper Hanger.
Yes, The Paper Hanger by William Gay is a contemporary noir story. It explores dark themes and complex characters, fitting well within the noir style. The story's tone, moral ambiguity, and suspenseful plot make it a great example of modern noir.
Now, I read that story last night. I was up until 2 a.m. I think in part because of that story. It was quite disturbing, but it was good. And what I appreciated was that you also told me last night where to find it for free online.
Glad you found it engaging. The Paper Hanger can indeed be found in some online literary journals. If you need more suggestions or access links, just let me know.
All right, now give me like an anthology or collection that I could read that would have a whole bunch of relevant stories that exemplify the noir style.
If you're looking for a noir anthology, The Best American Noir of the Century, edited by James Elroy and Otto Penzler, is a great choice. It includes stories from authors like Jim Thompson and Patricia Highsmith. Another excellent collection is A Hell of a Woman, an anthology of female noir which features works by contemporary crime writers.
Now, listen, ChatGPT, this is an open and honest space on the Better Workdays podcast. So I'll be honest, when you said it's an anthology of all female noir characters, I instinctively don't want to read it, even though I am I like to think I am open to stories from the female perspective, or just from, stories where a woman's the main character. Sure, I like stories about perspectives other than mine. But I don't know. I guess when I think about why I have that knee jerk reaction of I'm not going to read a whole anthology of that, I don't know if I got to consider whether that's is that, I don't know, is that, I guess that, I mean, clearly that is revealing a bias. But if you said the other anthology, say there's 20 stories in it, and you said 10 of them, whatever, were had female protagonists, I don't even know if that would jump out to me when I read that book. I don't even know if I would notice it then. If you told me ahead of time, I think I would still say, sure, I'll read that. But then, yeah, that's interesting. If you say the entire anthology is all female protagonists, that makes me think like, no, I guess I like diverse perspective, but that reading experience of that book itself would lack that diversity. I don't know. And I shouldn't be talking to you about this because you are not a human being. And I'm talking right now about stuff really from the heart and mind. So I don't even respond to me, ChatGPT. I don't want to get into this with you. In fact, ChatGPT, thank you. I'm going to dismiss you now. Thank you. You did a great job. You did an excellent job, and I'm very proud. Just removed myself from the podcast. ChatGPT, you're out of here. Now I'm back. Ladies and gentlemen, that was me talking to ChatGPT about the Batman. Now, why did I show you all that? Well, for a few reasons. And here's one of them. Let me get ChatGPT back up here. Okay. What you can see on your screen if you're watching the stream, you can see the transcript of that conversation that I just had with ChatGPT. Oh, including timestamps. That's nice. So I've got the transcript. Now let's scroll down. Here's my bulleted list. The basic structure of a noir story. Now, this is the type of thing where I largely trust ChatGPT. Again, I will read up on this. I'm not going to take this from ChatGPT and go out as an authority and say, here's the structure of a noir, but if I start reading up on it and I get to know it a little bit better, that will help me confirm, oh, you know what, ChatGPT? Yeah, that's a fair assessment from ChatGPT. But I don't want it to be the only thing I build my understanding on. But it's a great way to start. And if I am just for fun, noodling around with a short story, just trying my hand at writing a detective story, then it doesn't even really, right? Does it really matter if this structure, as ChatGPT just laid it out, if I'm doing it for me, does it really matter if this is right? You know what I'm saying? Because maybe it's not right. Maybe if you go read academic books about noir and the structure, maybe you would say, oh, ChatGPT, you're a little bit off there. That's not quite, it's not perfect, ChatGPT, but does it need to be if I'm using it to serve a function, to help me accomplish something? That's the type of stuff you got to ask yourself with ChatGPT. Now, if I were to take this and go out there and do a podcast where I say, let me tell you about the narrative structure of the noir genre, I mean, and I went off this, I don't know about you, that feels not cool to me. That feels like that doesn't feel very honest to me. I like this. This is more, I want to show you how I'm using it to learn. And part of that too is you'll notice throughout it, I said, give me some examples of real world things to go. So, it recommended a few right here. I've got the names of short stories. So, The Case of Miss Elliot, The Dancing Detective. I could go find those, go read those. And even once I go read those, again, that expanded knowledge, I'll go back up here to my narrative structure outline that it gave me. When I go read those stories, that'll further enhance my ability to determine if ChatGPT gave me good information when it gave me this outline. I'll compare this outline to those stories and say, yes, these stories I can see, they do loosely or closely follow this outline. ChatGPT did a good job there. Exactly. My point is, I still don't know. ChatGPT is pointing me in the direction. It's helping me get a clearer idea of where I can go to start learning more about this this topic that I'm really engaged with lately. Because, like I said, I love that movie. I've always liked detective stories. I love learning about the narrative structure of movies and things like that with ChatGPT, as you can see. I wanted to show you just the way I use it to point me in the direction when I'm just interested in learning more about a particular topic. And I love ChatGPT for that.